Alex DeVaux. I'm SVP of Client Partnerships at AltoVita. I'm probably a newer face for many of you who have been coming to these for years and interacting with AltoVita. I'm about 4.5 months into my journey, but I have about, and John already dated me with my AI story of wanting to speak to agents, but I have about 2 decades of experience in the business travel industry. I worked for travel management companies. I actually used to work with John in a past life, but I think that this session was very interesting to me. I think in the business travel space, when you see RFPs coming through, I used to oversee a large sales organization, and at the time we were responding to 120 plus RFPs a year, and you can always see what's trending based on the question shift that starts to happen. And more in the business travel space, we were being asked to solve for long stay, extended stay, lodging solutions. And I think for the most part, travel management companies don't have a good response to that, and the online booking tools aren't really handling that as well. So I would say when we look beyond those sort of standard hotel bookings, the travel management companies, the online booking tools tend to fall short with being able to handle those solutions. And as a gentleman said here, when you get to a certain spend threshold as well, whether that was $4,000, etc., you want to be able to interact with somebody. The booking flow is a bit more complex. It's often niche industries, niche requirements that you're dealing with as well. So it's not a case of being able to just go in, click, and book. So I think you really need to move beyond those standard solutions. And we've got some examples of how some of our panelists here have done that and been able to really sort of optimize in that space to find the cost savings, better traveler well-being, and really sort of smooth the operations in that. So today I'm joined by 3 fantastic panelists. Enough from me. I'll let them introduce themselves. But each have varying programs, different industries, different niche requirements. So without further ado, Sam, if you want to kick things off and introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your program, and then we'll move up the line.
Okay. Thank you. I think it's turned on. Is it turned on? Yeah. Okay. Morning. Sam van Leeuwen from PwC. I lead the travel and meetings team for PwC, and that's managing the procurement, the strategy, and the operational side. My stakeholders include not just the business, but obviously HR, global mobility, the student teams, learning and development and such, so we work across the whole of the firm. I work in the UK part of the business, which is about 30,000 travellers. Not travellers, 30,000 people, but it's about 10, 15,000 travellers. Also work with a Middle East firm on a consultancy basis. And our spend, and the reason I'm just explaining our spend is because it gives us a lot of leverage when it comes to buying in the marketplace. So business travel for us is about 85 million. Accommodation, which includes for meetings, for hotels, and for long-stay accommodation with global mobility, is about 30, 40 million. So it's quite a sizable program.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Eric Kline. I'm the Global Travel Manager at Simplot. For those of you that haven't heard of us, which I imagine is most, we are a global agricultural company responsible in no small part for helping feed the world. Our most famous product is we invented the frozen French fries. So if you love McDonald's or Chick-fil-A, that is our product. I hope so. But we're based out of Boise, Idaho, and as with most of our operations, we're agricultural companies, so our operations are globally in countries and cities you've never heard of and maybe don't even exist on a map, which makes travel difficult. We're often transporting both blue and white-collar employees to these locations for extended periods at hotels that don't even know what the GDS is, and so it makes for unique problems. The other thing that's unique about me is that I've been doing this role for 3 whole months. Simplot has not had a global travel managed global travel program up until I've taken on the role, despite having over $30 million in spend. So what's unique about our program is that we have no long-term stay accommodations. We hardly have a travel program at all. And so hopefully I'll be able to talk about the downsides of not managing your travel program and how much administrative overhead that takes. One other note is I've been in this role for 3 months. I've been doing global travel for 3 months. This is my first full-time job. So I'm bringing a totally outside perspective to the travel game. I think I have a different perspective on AI than most people here, and a different perspective on what travel should and can be. So hopefully there's some interesting topics.
My name's Harmony Ward. So I'm the travel services manager for a company called Geostabilization International. So some people might know us under the Soil Nail Holdings, which is our LLC. So we bought several companies. So we do like geohazard repairs, rockfall mitigation, soil tech, landslides, a lot of natural disasters, emergency services. So we do everything from local to federal to private. We're in the US, Canada, New Zealand, and then we just keep purchasing companies. But 80% of our travel is all crew travel, which makes us unique because we're not your normal business travel. And then because of our jobs, our stays range anywhere from 2 weeks to a year or more. So it just depends. So, we have mainly used hotels, right? And then for longer term stays, we didn't have a solution in mind or didn't know what to do. And so temporarily we were using my personal Airbnb account, which got destroyed.
Super compliant.
Horrible comments. You're trying to mitigate damages. If they sue someone, they're going to sue Harmony. So it just created a whole complexity. So I was on a mission. I got to solve this problem. Like the way that we're doing long-term lodging, TMCs are not built for it. They're just doing from the GDS. There's no connection. And so when AltoVita came around, it was a great solution for us to look at because it provided that bridge between what we needed. And then hopefully eventually we'll get some bridges between the TMCs and mobility programs.
I mean, that's a wrap, really. Harmony just kind of summed that all up for us. But I'm just going to reach for this clicker here. Can you just, thank you. Super. So just with my first question then, so I think just from hearing a bit about each of your programs, we can probably gauge what that looks like. But from your experience, outside of your maybe own Airbnb account being trashed, where have you seen the standard solutions fall short for you, and what sort of challenges has that brought to your program and to managing and overseeing that?
Yeah, so basically because there wasn't really a bridge there, it was just mainly hotels through the TMC. So being able to actually have a corporate solution that would work for us, that would provide, we have damage basically that we built into our daily rate. So that helps us when we do have damages. Sometimes it's our fault, sometimes it's not, but this is crew travel. They're pretty tough on these places. So that, and then also the lack of data, right? So if you're using Airbnb, you kind of have that gap between who is staying there really, and then the cost of it, average daily rate, so data analytics, really being able to look at your spend, your savings, all of that was really important to us in the average daily rate. Are we really saving money, or are we costing the company more money? So it kind of provided that solution for us where we didn't have it before. So I would say more of, that's what it was solved for us. And then just being able to have that data at our fingertips is huge.
Eric, what about yourself? I mean, I can't even imagine managing $30 million of unmanaged travel, and there must be so many opportunities for optimization there. So, what standard solutions are you seeing, and what do you think is falling short, and where are you guys challenged, apart from probably everywhere right now?
The good news is that when you have an unmanaged program and I come into a brand new role, it's hard to screw up. There's a lot of really easy opportunities to improve the program. And the $30 million is what I can prove today. I was trying to pull some data in preparation of this about our extended stay. I have no idea how much we spend on extended stay. The data doesn't exist. If somebody wants to book something and they don't feel like doing it through our TMC, or it's too expensive to do it through our TMC, they call up a hotel in middle of nowhere America, and they talk to Becky and they book it with Becky directly. And that's the solution. And the administrative overhead on that is a disaster. And if there's a problem, they call me up and they say, hey, this hotel is giving us grief. And I say, I've never even heard of this hotel. They don't have a website. It's horribly impractical when you're an operation of one. You don't want to put that responsibility on the individual travelers or the individual business groups because that's not their core competency. You're losing out on opportunity to negotiate on that spend. Some of these hotels or stay locations we do hundreds of thousands of dollars with and have no relationship with at all. Totally missed opportunity. So not having a program in place is a disaster. And if your solution is just book through your TMC, well, if you're an agricultural company and you're booking in country or cities that don't have hotels on the GDS, don't have hotels on your TMC, that's not a viable solution for them, and it's a more expensive solution even if they do exist. So I could talk for hours about the problems with not having an extended stay program, not having any program in place, but for Simplot, it's been particularly difficult.
And then Sam.
So for PwC, we have quite a multifaceted program in as much that the downside of working for a financial services firm with consultants is they all think they know better than you do when it comes to travel or staying and lodging and everything. But we have travellers, we have people travelling for global mobility, we have people travelling for meetings, people travelling for learning development, projects, international engagements. So the challenge we had is the fact that none of those are joined up. So the TMC part of it, the travel agency part of it, very high adoption to booking online, but didn't give any choice to those travellers. So if they were going to Australia, they wanted to stay in an apartment. They didn't want to stay in a hotel. And it was the lack of ability for the TMC to bring all those areas together. And it also caused us a tax issue, because when we had to then pull the records for taxation, we couldn't actually find how long people have stayed in the service apartments for, because TMC cut off at 45 nights, oddly. So the fact that you couldn't join all those up and we couldn't give the same experience to all the travellers, and also then Global Mobility were procuring rates higher than we were doing in business travel. You had engagements who were going off doing their own thing because they couldn't find what was online with the TMC. So then they became a security risk. So it was multiple different issues by not having it all joined up. The leverage in the programme and the spend, we've done that for quite a few years. We've been a very early adopter, but it's actually then the technology and the process side of it, bringing them all together, which was the issue, because we then had to have separate processes for lots of different people. And it just caused us a massive headache with it, because we just didn't, for our travellers and our GM community, it wasn't the best experience.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue for us, actually, because I know, Sam, you played a pivotal role in collaborating with AltoVita in sort of holistically looking at that spend from a global mobility and a business travel, and you just touched on it lightly there. But, you know, tell us a bit more around sort of what the motivations were there and what some of the measurable results were that you achieved through holistically looking at that volume and consolidating it together.
So one of the biggest standout for me was the fact that GM were paying much more than we were for service apartments, and there was a layering of fees within that without having the service attached to that. On the TMC side of it, we weren't actually getting some of the better apartments and such out there because they weren't being fed through the GDS. We weren't getting the visibility from the suppliers, and we knew there's some great suppliers out there, but they're just not coming through the GDS. Mm-hmm. So whilst we've worked with GM for years, it was a big change for them to actually collaborate with business travel. But it's always been on the basis of we look at the holistic process as opposed to the management of the process. So we work together to develop it, but we didn't actually, I don't have any say in the GM programs and such. I will advise and say, okay, you've seen different spend in these areas, but they're the ones that decide what they do with their location company, and it was about bringing some efficiencies. And whilst for a good few years we had this process in place, but it was all manual, it was all spreadsheets, it was all it was hard work basically, and then trying to get that data quickly enough was painful to be able to make informative decisions in the marketplace when we're buying. So that's when we went out to RFP. We were due to go to RFP before COVID. Obviously that happened, so everyone went to sleep for a couple of years, but we were actually quite busy. And after COVID, we went out to market RFP, and interestingly, we invited AltoVita as a wild card. because small company, small entrance into the marketplace, didn't think there would be much more they could do to help develop our program. But interestingly, 2 years on, obviously a supplier now to PwC, we've moved on significantly in this market. We've collaborated on how we bring business travel into the world of long-stay accommodation, and that's been underpinned by some of the technology. And for us, that means that we can see everything in one place, and also our travellers can have the same experience as an engagement or an assignee, whether it's long-term, short-term, and it can be anywhere in the world. And it's not been an easy journey because we had to, unfortunately, our in-house supplier actually, when they realised they hadn't won the bid, they just decided not to work very efficiently anymore. So we had a very steep learning curve, and that's where the tech came into it. The average age of people in PwC is 27. So I'm one of the dinosaurs, but I'm actually quite high. We get tracked on AI, and I'm one of the higher adopters of it. I'm pleased to say that one. Woo! I think it's just luck sometimes that comes out of it, but it's that type of thing that actually brought the efficiency into the business. Yeah. So that's where AltoVita and PwC really improved the service of bringing that efficiency into it. And I think we've still got a lot more to do because we want to bring more of the mobile apps, bringing it into the Teams integration. There's still a lot more to do, but certainly by working with GM and our other stakeholders in the business and being aligned in what we wanted to achieve, I think that's where the success of our programs come from.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think you shared a statistic with me, and from reading the case study, I think you said that you achieved something around like 25% cost savings from
I've got to say that. That's a huge one.
That's a massive win. So I know maybe it is work, and
yes, that's right. It's a 20% cost saving as a minimum, but also then what we've done is from 4 nights or more, they get moved into a service department. And we had an instance recently where we had some interns that came into the business, thought they could stay in a 5-star luxury hotel for three weeks each. Until we broke it to them like, no, that's not how you start at PwC. Moved them into a service department, and just in that one instance, we saved £16,000.
Yeah. Significant.
So that's a big win for the business then.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So it just really goes to show when you do start to look at that volume holistically, even just the cost-saving opportunities that are there are well worth exploring for sure. Thank you for that, Sam. Really, really insightful. Harmony, I still have horrors about hearing about your own personal Airbnb situation, but obviously your program is very niche. You do something quite different, and as you mentioned, with crew travel, it's a very different consideration and traveller demographic. But if you can tell us a little bit around how you kind of went outside the box to solve for to accommodate your travellers.
Yeah, so obviously crew travel, not really business travel. So one of the things with partnering with AltoVita that's really helped us is we are checking in on the weekends, right? So we need the weekend support. So they've really worked with us to, shift some things around so they can be that support, because sometimes you have the app, you're checking information, which is actually really valuable to us as well, because with Airbnb, we were the ones sending it to our guys, here's your check-in information. If there's issues, they're calling us. We're dealing with maintenance, we're dealing with everything. So AltoVita took that. So one of it was the technology that they offer with the check-in, with the guys there can talk to someone and get help that they need right away. The other aspect of it was the weekend. We've got weekend check-in, weekend issues. Sometimes we've got emergency jobs in which I need a place in the next 24 hours. So it's Saturday, they're checking in on Sunday, we have got emergency job, they got to be there. So AltoVita has been that bridge gap for us as well. And then, we're also working on other solutions with them. So like one of them is we always make our guys have to take pictures of the place when they check in, take pictures when they check out. So then we're not blamed for damages that we didn't actually do or extra cleaning costs, things like that. So we were talking about building it into their app. When someone's checking in, they can take a quick review, take some quick shots, upload it, which would help us out a lot. So that's kind of what makes us a little bit niche, but they've really worked with us to develop the program, because also, we do stays anywhere from, 2 weeks to a year. So most other mobility companies only want 30-day stays or longer, and that's it. So with AltoVita, they were really able to help us build the program that we need, that we could have those 2-week stays, and it wasn't a big deal. We were able to get them into a home or an apartment and things like that. So anyways, that's kind of where we've been able to bridge the gap and solve for some of the problems that we had.
Fantastic, yeah. And although you guys are sort of, being innovative and finding your own solutions, obviously there's room to grow. We want standard solutions out there to be able to fit these kind of requirements. So, from your experience, what do you think would be helpful in terms of, innovations, integrations, additional support, etc., to make your lives easier? Eric, I'll start with you because I think you're probably in full flow of exploring multiple different solutions.
The name of the game when it comes to travel for me, and I think where the industry is moving, is full stack solutions wherever we can. So to the extent possible, it needs to be a one-stop shop app. It needs to be a mobile first app. And that works for both generations. Absolutely, my generation is fully interested in not having to jump between certainly a manual process or a different app or a different screen or different branding, different places with different profiles. But even my older colleagues, to try and to explain, well, hey, you use this service for this type of stay, but this service for this type of stay, and maybe it varies by country, and it doesn't work. Standardized policies, standardized programs, standardized tools, and to the extent possible, the tools need to work together very effectively. The example I give is I use an Apple Watch because it integrates and syncs with everything else on my phone really well. Not just Apple products, but Apple adjacent products. I'm a big runner, and it connects to my Strava seamlessly. It just uploads directly. That's how travel needs to work because it's such a complex process. We don't want to add in any more complexity because the technology is not good on the front end. There's no physical reason why these services can't work together, and we can't make it very simple for the travelers to just book in one spot, get the best rate available, make it effective for the company, let us track our data, but let them have a easy and simple process.
Yeah, definitely. Sam, what about yourself?
It's absolutely the same. It's bringing all the technology together and making it easier for whoever is coming into the system, into the ecosystem, to book and to be able to track where they're staying and how they get in there and such. And one of the things we're trying to do is bring in a unique identifier that goes across all the systems. So we have a meetings tool, we have a travel tool, and we have the AltoVita tool, and how we bring an identifier in that connects it all up. So you know that that flight relates to that stay in Manhattan for a month, and what's the total trip cost coming out of it. So then we link it into Concur, which is our expenses tool. So it's how we bring all that together, and then that brings insight into the business of where they're spending, because let's face it, cost sits with all of us. But it also could improve things like the approvals process. So if they know what the average cost of a 30-day stay in Manhattan is, then they're actually able to approve that up front rather than get a clunky process and do the pre-approval as opposed to the post-approval. Then we can maybe improve the payment methodology around that as well. So it's very much linking everything up.
Absolutely. And then last but not least, Harmony, what are your thoughts on where you'd like to see things go in the future?
I think what they have both said is all accurate. I think I would just be repeating what they said, but basically, again, going back to bridging the gap, you've got the TMC, you've got mobility over here, and there's zero connection. We're having to connect it ourselves. So having solutions that connect is really huge, because I have to take all the data, I have to figure it all out myself. So it's nice to have that technology, to have that bridge. So I would just say for the future, just there needs to be that gap. So it's really great to have, travel, business travel here as well as mobility, because then you're kind of seeing both aspects of it, and then how do we bridge it?
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you, guys. So again, just to sort of wrap that up, I think, from what we've heard from our panelists, fragmentation is a headache, right? Having multiple different systems, booking in different places, different traveler sets, you're having data leakage. It just makes it far more challenging. It affects the traveler experience, the user experience, the cost-saving opportunities. So, it really is about, partnering with people who are going to collaborate with you to have those conversations at a supplier level and also at a corporate level to to come up with these innovative solutions. So I think if we can collectively continue to sing from the same hymn sheet about the efficiencies that can be achieved, we can really continue to sort of move the needle in that space and see more opportunity for consolidated solutions to be able to bring global mobility and business travel together. But with that, thank you so much to our 3 panelists here. We've got about 4 minutes left, so if there's any questions for anyone. Karen?
Just to ask the question, and any of you can answer, please, Sam, or you'll be best both. When you're looking at business travel and encouraging people to go more to the kind of when you're looking at business travel and you're encouraging people to go to the more extended stay, corporate apartments, etc., how do you actually how do you communicate that? How did you manage to get people to start thinking about apartments versus hotels?
A lot of stakeholder engagement with that, communications throughout the firm. And then we have, on the online booking tool, we have a punch out straight to AltoVita. So it says if you want to stay, if you plan to stay 4 nights or more, book your accommodation this way, and it punches straight out to that tool. We have like a hub where everything is kept for the whole firm, whether you do your timesheets, your holidays, and in there is a link saying about service departments, speaking to various groups within the firm. It doesn't happen overnight. I think that's one of the biggest things. It absolutely doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of work. It's identifying those stakeholder groups, so like GM, who have a big team, and then how can they cascade that information down to their team? Well, pretty much they told the third parties, this is the way we're going to do it going forward because of the benefits from it. So it really doesn't happen overnight. And one of the things that we have to do as well is still keep the human touch. That's still so critical, because from a GM perspective, with some assignees are tricky, and I'm sure all of you know that thing of Friday night. It says the visas come through and we're just getting on the aeroplane. It's like, yeah, you're supposed to tell us that before you get on the aeroplane. And then to find an apartment, and then that's where the business travel kicks in to get their hotel with it. But it's being able to put the tech link in the right places and speak to the right people in the business, which means going back to data and looking at the data and looking at expenses data and accounts payable data and finding who travels where, and then just going and talking to them the old-fashioned way, speaking.
So, again, there's a lot to admire, Sam, in terms of the examples of your action, all the stories I've heard. So my ask is, again, encouragement that you could offer this audience in terms of how did you build that compelling business case? How did you campaign? Because everybody has good ideas, but being able to sell them, get the decision makers on board, how was that journey like? And then any lessons you've learned that you can share with us?
I think the journey goes on the PwC side and also on the supplier side. So it's making sure the suppliers buy into what is going to happen and how it will benefit them from sitting within that ecosystem with it. So a lot of our service apartment suppliers, particularly in the Middle East, were very resistant about it because they saw it was going to take away their relationship with the firm and such. So it's making sure they come on board and say they're not going to lose out by anything. In fact, actually, there's improvements because it means their service partners are more visible. They'll be online. They're much easier for people to select them and such. And then on the stakeholder side as well, it's showing the benefits of service departments. So well-being is key, I think, for everyone. People are fed up of, I mean, it's great when you go to a hotel for the first couple of nights and you splurge in the restaurant and then steak and dauphinoise potatoes every night. It's like beans on toast, please. So it's those type of things when people are in engagement that the benefit to them is they have a better quality when they're working, better quality of life when they're working on an engagement if they take the service department side of it for a long stay. But then also recognising there are people that prefer a hotel with it. So it's not, what's the expression, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So some people you have to go, you know what, I'm never going to convert those to a service apartment. But then other people, like these 3 students actually, 3 interns that came in, the decision was taken out of their hands because it was like, no, so you are taking the mickey now. You cannot be staying in that hotel. And then it goes up to people much more senior who, from a cost perspective, say absolutely not, they're not staying there. So it's different engagement at different levels.
You understood value, you understood the value proposition for different stakeholders.
You have to put yourself in someone else's shoes, because if I'm a stubborn old woman, if someone tells me to do something, unless you give me a really good reason, I'm not going to do it. So flip it around the other way and say, encourage people, and
I think 25%
you almost become
cost
like sales
savings
and
is a very good reason.
yeah, you become like a sales and marketing person from it.
Yeah. Awesome. So we're at time, but thank you very much.